If you're anything like me, then at some point in your life you've been sat in a pub or a bar and there's been a band on and you've noticed that the bass player is wearing a face. It's a face like he's just like got a parking ticket, or he's just got to the front of the queue in Greggs and they've run out of steak bakes or something like that. He's not happy about something. Now, bass players actually do that quite a lot, but one of the main reasons they do it is if they are asked to play the line cliché. Now, this tutorial isn't about the line cliché, but we're going to use it as a starting point. So let me very quickly explain what it is, just in case you've never come across it before. Basically, the line cliché is where you've got a descending bass line, typically going down a scale that is almost kind of defining the chords that go over the top of it. So a classic line cliché implementation might be something like this. Typically they jump up to the 5th chord at the end, so you can loop them over and do all kinds of things with them. Now, the line cliché has a bit of a bad reputation, especially among bass players, for being dull, and it is quite dull to play. But if you're just getting into songwriting or improvisation or chords or harmony or whatever, it's worth knowing about because it can actually generate really kind of solid songs or tracks, yeah? But like I said, we're not going to actually use that kind of style of line cliché today. What we're going to do is use the thinking behind it to generate some chord progressions of our own. Because if you take that basic idea of the descending bass line, you can come up with a huge number of really interesting progressions, yeah? So let me show you this progression that I came up with literally a few minutes ago, yeah, just before I started shooting this video. It's just a 4-bar loop and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 chords spread over 4 bars to give me a really neat little loop. You could use it for all kinds of things. You could use it as a basis of a song. You could use it to practice your improvisation. Yeah, and you can create lots of different chord progressions using that technique. Let me just explain the actual kind of thought process I went through here. I literally started with a random chord, A flat major 7. And I thought to myself, what I'm going to do is try descending, at least to start with, in semitones, in half steps. So I'm going to be going A flat G, G flat F, and so on downwards. So if that's my first chord, then the next chord I need is something based on this G, and a really natural thing to go for there is that shape. So that's an E flat major chord, basic E flat major. I'm playing it in first inversion, and straight away that's giving me some really useful information because I've gone from A flat major 7 to E flat. I'm kind of getting the feeling of something that is in the key of E flat. I didn't start with a key in mind, but that sounds like a 4-1 resolution if you're familiar with the music theory. So straight away I think, right, I'm kind of in E flat here. That chord itself is it's a little bit of an awkward stretch, okay? So I'm going to reduce the stretch and also make it more interesting by playing the F instead of the G. So we're going from A flat major 7 to E flat add 9. Okay, my next note I know is G flat, which doesn't appear in the key of E flat major. So I know this is going to be a non-diatonic chord. It's not one of the chords that I can naturally grow out of the E flat major scale. Don't worry too much if you don't know all of this music theory, by the way. Just kind of roll with it for now, and I'll talk about some stuff you can do later. So a natural chord for me to grow off there, and again I'm kind of in black note territory, so I'm going to go for that G flat major 7. That is, if you're familiar with the terminology, that is what we would call a chromatic mediant chord in the key of E flat. I'm not going to hang around on that chord for long. I'm going to go straight down to my next chord on F. A really natural chord to go for there is F minor 7. And then I'm going to jump the E, but I don't have to. We'll come back to that in a second, and land on my E flat. And that gives me a 4-bar chord progression. So I've got a bar of A flat major 7. I've got a bar of E flat add 9. 2 beats of my G flat major 7. 2 beats of my F minor 7. And then a full bar of that. I've done that not by applying lots of kind of theoretical thinking. I've just kind of felt my way because I'm really familiar with the scales of E flat and A flat major and that kind of thing. So those are the notes that kind of fall under my fingers. Yet another reason to practice your scales, okay? What about that missing E? I could very easily drop a passing chord in there. I could drop quite a cool passing chord in there, which would be E7, which seems very remote from the key of E flat major, but it's a brilliant substitute for the 5 chord in E flat major. So that would be B flat or B flat 7, and that's what we call a tritone substitution for the B flat 7. Okay, so from the, well, let's go from the top. I've got my A flat, down to my E flat add 9, down to my G flat major 7, F minor 7, E7, E flat 7. If you're enjoying this, by the way, if you like my style, if you like my approach, check out my various resources. Down in the links below, you'll find links to my books. Especially, I think you might like my latest book, PDF, of how to be a better musician, full of practice tips. Also, check out my Patreon community, which has got tons of resources. I've got videos, I've got podcasts, I've got articles, PDFs, loads of stuff in the community. Plus, it's really friendly and fun. We have great chat. I think you'll really like it. It doesn't cost much to sign up. Patreon.com/Bill Hilton. Anyway, what can you do with this idea for yourself? Let me give you a little challenge, okay? I'm going to give you a chord to start with, and that chord is G minor 7. I'm going to say to you, I want you to get, using that descending technique, that line cliche type technique, I want you to get down to D7. Okay, so rather than going 4-1, as we were doing when we were doing that A flat to E flat, we're going to be going 1-5, because the D7 resolves really nicely back to the G minor 7 at the top there. And you can go down in semitones, in tones, steps or half steps if you're in the States, and just feel out the chords, feel what makes sense. I've been talking about this a lot recently, but it really, really matters. So many adult learners especially try and work out all the theory first and think, oh, I've got to know this, I've got to know that. Get your hands on the keyboard, play stuff. If it sounds good, great. If it doesn't, fine. But when you sound a chord, you know, when you play a chord that sounds cool, try and work out why it sounds cool. Learn the theory that way rather than by trying to memorize loads of stuff, yeah?